So let's welcome Ron like we did up in Minneapolis. Let's try it again. That first one was just a warm up.
That's right.
But we can really do it. Ron.
So it is very nice. You know, today we had a few individuals doing some lecturing, and they gave some talks at Lou Rockwell and Tom Woods. I thought that was fantastic. Some people say, wait, you're having a political rally, you're getting the troops ready to get re-elected next year. And for me, though, that was a very important thing to happen today, to talk about the issue. Because I've always worked on the assumption that ideas have consequences, and it's the ideas that really count. But I do want to thank Barry, coming from California to introduce me and participate. Barry did this one time many years ago. Barry, it may have been about 30 years ago, for all I know. But I invited him over, and I thought I'd trick him into a swimming race, but that was a trick on me because he ended up beating me in the swimming race. So, but anyway, I'm very glad to see him again and participate in this. But some of you came from outside the 14th District. A couple of you even came out from outside the state of Texas, and I'm very glad you're here. The 14th District. The 14th District, of course, is very important to all of us and to me in particular. But the 14th District has changed a lot with each redistricting and sometimes in between the redistricting. But the 14th District really lies in the heart of where Texas was born. The history of Texas, if you know the history of Texas, you know that the big issues occurred between the Alamo here and the San Jacinto up near Houston. And the 14th District has incorporated most of that territory at one time or the other. And there's been a lot of famous things that happened, especially the Declaration of Independence that occurred in 1836. But a lot of people don't know that the very first battle for independence of Texas occurred in 1832, a few years before that. And that occurred over in a little place called Velasco, which happens to be Surfside near Freeport, Texas, in Missouri County. But a little incident happened. You know, in 1824, the Mexican government had been inviting some American settlers into Texas. And when they did this, they had instituted a really pretty good constitution, one somewhat modeled after ours, and they recognized civil liberties and they condemned martial law. But in 1832, William Travis was arrested, just across the bay in Anahuac. And this, to the settlers, the American colonists here, were very, very outraged by this because it was a federal government the important thing is to me is that we do live in a very historic area of Texas, and the issue then, as it is now, is martial law. Martial law is a sign that the federal government is getting too oppressive, and there are hints today that it may come to our country, and we have to do everything conceivable to stop that from happening. You know, in studying economics and being in government, warnings are oftentimes very, very important. We should warn people about what's coming, because you can't do anything about it if you live just thinking that there are no problems and you can't anticipate and you can't change policy. So even though we now are in the midst of a financial crisis that many individuals have warned about, we still have to deal with what will the future be and what are the warnings and what should our concerns be. We do have a lot of economic concerns in this country, believe me. It doesn't take you very much to figure out exactly where we stand on our financial situation in Washington. Things, to say it mildly, it is in one big mess, and we need to do something about that. If you look at the July statistics on the budget, they're rather frightening, because just in July, the deficit was $180 billion in 1 month. That used to take a couple years to work up a deficit like that, but in 1 month, it went up $180 billion. But the spending went up to $332 billion, the biggest month we've ever had in spending. At the same time, the revenues dropped. Some people say, oh, isn't that a shame, the revenues dropped? Well, it's a mixed blessing. That's good. The government's not getting enough money. That's fine and dandy with me. But the whole problem is that spending doesn't stop. It just contributes to the deficit, puts pressure on more borrowing, and of course puts more pressure on the Federal Reserve just to print the money. And that, of course, is something that we are in the midst of taking care of, that Federal Reserve system. It baffles me. As long as I have been up there, it still is astonishing that we look at these statistics on a daily basis. We see the deficits exploding, and we see the spending exploding, but they never hesitate for a second to add on a new program. Now, of course, they talk about cap and trade. That's going to cost hundreds of billions of dollars in unreal spending and taxes. At the same time, they're coming along and they think that they need the federal government to tell you what to do about your health care, and we don't need the federal government in the business of our health care whatsoever. But what is bewildering is they talk about $1 trillion medical program. And that medical program will cost more. There's never been a program the federal government has proposed, and they haven't even come close to the predicted cost of that program. So if they're saying $1 trillion, you can be assured it will be $3 trillion. Now what do they say when you bring up the subject of too much expenses? What they'll tell you is that you're right about this. We spend too much. We have too much of the debt, and we print too much money. But they tell us, we'll take care of that next year, or the year after, or the year after. Well, postponing that day of reckoning can no longer be postponed. That day of reckoning is upon us, and we have to deal with it right now.